Todd Boehly and Mark Walter are co-owners of Chelsea. Each of them own around 12.8% of shares in Chelsea. Now, both of them are in conversations to sell their stakes to their other partners, Clearlake Capital, who already own 61.5% stake in Chelsea. How did we get here? Now, somewhere in 1985, a man called Mikhail Gorbachev became the leader of the Soviet Union at the tail end of the Soviet Union. That time, the glory of the Soviet Union had reduced significantly, and his role was to rebuild the Soviet Union. Then he brought in two policies. The first one was the Glasnost, which focused on social and political issues. That is not the focus of our conversation today. But the second and most important one was Perestroika. And Perestroika was a policy that changed the face of the Soviet Union. We know that the Soviet Union is built on an ideology of socialism and communism, where the state owns everything. The state controls everything, like the media, everything. Then they control the means of production, all the economic businesses, or the economic setup was being controlled by the state. So they own the manufacturing companies. They own almost all the big companies in the economy. That is what it means. Now, what Perestroika brought was to allow privatization, where private institutions and individuals can own certain aspects of the economy, can own certain aspects of production. So maybe those times you couldn't run a private company. All the companies belong to the state, and all of us had a stake in those companies that belonged to the state. So we were all working for the state. So nobody owns anything, but we all own everything. That's the principle. Then he felt like, no, the companies in and of themselves were not doing well because nobody was taking the utmost responsibility. Kroma, there's something we call abaya dear. Yes, once it's for the government, we treat it with some level of carelessness. So he brought Perestroika. Then a man known as Roman Abramovich got interested. Then he also started investing in private companies. Then he started producing plastic dogs, like toys and dolls and all of those things. Then later on, when Perestroika was fully open and the Soviet Union had come to an end in the 1990s, then he got into oil and steel. Then he started producing. You understand? Then somewhere around 1995, he became a strong ally of Boris Berezovsky, and he became a billionaire. Now, along the line, he came to England, bought football club Chelsea, invested in Chelsea heavily, and Chelsea has become the big club we know today. Now, in 2022, under the leadership of Vladimir Putin, Russia invaded Ukraine. The entire European Union and the United Kingdom went after Russia, and because of that, they prevented Russian nationals from coming into some of these countries. And so Abramovich had to relocate. He couldn't come to the UK. Then they froze their accounts and all of that. And so the UK, the British government, forced Abramovich to sell his stakes in Chelsea. Then there was the takeover. I mean, it was prepared for new owners to come to Chelsea. Now, in a deal that was supposed to take 9 months, it took 3 months, and then it was confirmed. And then 4 people became the new owners of Chelsea. We had Bedard Boehly and Jose Feliciano, who owned a certain company called Clearlake Capital. They were given 61.5%. And for me, that is the beginning of the problems in Chelsea. To give one entity 61.5%, you kill all elements of competition. You kill all elements of discussion. You kill all elements of debate in the company. That wasn't a smart decision at all. To give somebody 61.5% in a company that you don't want to be run as a private equity company is a terrible decision. Those who set up this deal have done a great disservice to the fans of Chelsea, and I will explain why in detail. Then we have a certain Todd Boehly, whose company is Enrich Industries. He was given 12.8%. Then Mark Walter, who ran Guggenheim. I mean, it's a bank. He has an insurance company and all of that. They, they also were given 12.8%. Then a certain man called Hans Jung Wise. He's 90 years now and he's about to celebrate his 91st birthday very soon. Yes, he was also given 12.8% through his Wise Foundation. Now, when they came in, they started very well, but there's been friction between them. It looks like we have Todd Boehly and Mark Walter with Wires as an ally to them on one side, and then Bedard Ekbali. But it is normal for these frictions to happen because, so if you follow corporate governance, you know that boardroom politics is always there. People disagree on boardroom every time. That is why we set up the boardroom with variety, so that there will be competition in the boardroom, so that you would have to reach consensus in the boardroom, so that people will have to come together, form alliances in the boardroom to agree. You understand? And so it is very, very normal. But when they started, we realized that after 1 year, the frictions built up, conflict shot up between them and all of that. But the reason is that Bedard Ekbali will not need you to take decisions because he has 61.5%. You understand? And so that means that there won't be efforts in building consensus in that boardroom. And for me, that is why I fault the person who set up the deal, because you should give the person with the highest, maybe a percentage of, let's say 45%. So that person is the majority shareholder. Yes, that person is the greatest shareholder in the company. He has the highest stakes, but he cannot take unilateral decisions because he will need at least one other partner to take those decisions, and that will bring some level of harmony. You understand? This is so now currently in Chelsea we have a system where these three men, Todd Boehly, Mark Walter, and Hans Jung Wise, are on one side and they are the minority. And then Bedard Ekbali and then Jose Feliciano, they are on one side and then they have the utmost majority to take any decision that they want. The other side, to further complicate things is that they have a controlling owner. And at the controlling owners level, we have Todd Boehly. You see, Mark Walter and then Wise elected Todd Boehly to represent them as the controlling owner. So the three of them, when they put together their shares, they are hovering around 38% or so. Yeah, yes, they are hovering around that area, 36 or 37 or so. So what it means is that that would represent one. And because Ekbali and then Feliciano have 60 plus, they get to have two representations at the controlling owners level. And for me, that is where the problem starts, because every time they go to the controllers, the controlling owners meeting, and they need to take a decision, Ekbali and Jose Feliciano are always on the same side, so they vote 2-1 against Todd Boehly every time. And that will be frustrating for a person like Todd Boehly. Maybe he does not understand football very well, but he has very good intent for the football club. He wishes the football club very well. He wants the football club to flourish. You understand? And so we noticed that when the team came into office, Todd Boehly was made the interim sporting director. And for me, that is the gravest mistake Todd Boehly has made. The biggest mistake Todd Boehly has made in his illustrious career is to have accepted to become Chelsea's acting sporting director when he knew nothing about football. The team should have been encouraged to pick somebody who knew a lot about football and could complete these ones. So Todd Boehly stepped into the dangerous role of transfers without having prior experience. Look at the market today. Look at how selling clubs are preying on buying clubs. Look at how players and their agents are taking advantage of clubs. Then we have somebody, an astute businessman, somebody who understands finances, somebody who understands accounting so much so well, step into this arena with no background, with no experience in negotiating player sales. So agents took advantage of him, clubs took advantage of him. They realized that they've purchased Koulibaly, Raheem Sterling, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and all of that. And they brought Graham Potter as coach under his leadership. But I feel better that Boehly may have set Todd Boehly up to fail. Because they knew this guy didn't know anything about football. But they made him acting sporting director, knowing very well that he will not be able to handle himself at the market. When given the opportunity to map out the tactics for Chelsea, Todd Boehly, we remember Todd Boehly mapped out the tactics of 4-4-3, which means 11 outfield players, which is not possible because the whole team is 11. So 10 outfield players, which presupposes that this guy doesn't know anything about football. How does he do transfers? So he ended up splashing the money around. He ended up splashing the money around with no real value for the monies he had spent. And then he had a clear-cut ideological difference with the Clearlake capital owners. He wanted an experienced squad, an established set of players. Then they will blend them with the young players. Then the other people also, Boehly and co, favored younger players, players who could play with that longevity, who could also give the team or the owners a certain resale value. So that at any point in time that they wanted to sell them, they could still cash in on their sale. And that brought a lot of friction between the two men for the starters. Now, after that season, the impression is that Todd Boehly has led us into a fruitless transfer window or a fruitless series of expenditure on player sales. And so for that matter, Boehly explored the option of freezing out Todd Boehly in key decisions to make sure that when they are taking important decisions, Todd Boehly will not be considered. And so it created a big friction between the two of them. And you see, Charlie, Boehly is a good schemer. Well, scheming Todd Boehly, I must say, no, be adrian say, the adjumani share Todd Boehly, sir. So on transfer window, non to players, but he has not been able to give us value for money. He was unable to purchase the required players who are made for this club. And so we cannot take his opinions again. Do you understand what that means? What that means is that when we are even going to take important decisions, we don't even have to ask him. After all, we have a majority to take that important decision. So we can just go on and do what we like. They just needed a reason to sideline Todd Boehly, and he himself created room for that reason to be easy. He disagreed with the sacking of Mauricio Pochettino, but it happened anyway because like I've already told you, there's nothing you could do about it. Once Boehly decides, that is it. You understand? Now, in 2024, when he got frustrated, himself and Mark Walter, they tried to raise funds to buy out Boehly and then the Clearlake capital and get them out. So you see, it is something that happens a lot in corporate governance, all right? And then the stock market. When you go to the stock exchange, the company's shares are always listed. And so when you want to dilute somebody's shares at the company, for example, if you want to reduce the rights of Boehly in Chelsea, all you have to do is that you continue to buy his shares and water it down. Even sometimes different people, but this is illegal. But I mean, I'm sure people try and do it once in a while. So if they want to water your shares down, they get different people, like so many other people, to come and buy your shares. So maybe 20 people, somebody will buy 1%, somebody will buy 2%, somebody will buy 0.5%, and they'll be buying it small, like that. You will not notice. You think you still have the majority before you realize all the people who have bought the shares small from you, they've gone to sell it to your direct opponents at the boardroom. And I mean, automatically they finished you, they've priced you out. You understand? But this one, they managed, they were trying to raise funds to buy them out and go. But Egbali and then Feliciano stated emphatically that they were not interested in selling their stakes in Chelsea. Not at all. But what is the problem? The problem is that Egbali, the Charlie guy, no, a schemer. He's a correct schemer. He understands the game. When they came, when they needed somebody to be the face of the project, they elected Todd Boehly. Oh, you be the face. You don't worry. Go. So you need to say you need to say you 61.5 into yem. So you be the face. Okay. Then they wanted somebody to be chairman. They said, oh, you be chairman so that after 5 years, then we would also elect somebody to become chairman. They had set him up completely. They had set him up like to put him at places that his face will be everywhere when he will not have the real power in the boardroom. They made sure he looked like a general without an army. You see a general, somebody in his army regalia as a general coming without an army. Have you seen some before? That is what Todd Boehly was reduced to, but by Egbali at the Chelsea board. And so for me, for Todd Boehly not to have seen this happening when it started baffles me so much. I don't understand. This is clear-cut boardroom politics. And as a veteran businessman, he should have encountered people like Egbali so many times in many boardrooms. I don't know why he failed to notice that when he was being given all the opportunities, he was being set up to fail. They were setting him up to fail. And they told him that he has powers to veto. But the power of veto is only valid when there is a tie. And there cannot be any tie in when the controlling owners are taking a decision because Egbali and Jose Feliciano always vote to the same side. So it is always a 2v1 against Todd Boehly. And the veto power no way. How would he exercise that veto power? It doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense. Come on. So you see, we are hearing that Todd Boehly is going to step down as board chairman if this season comes to an end. That's originally his plan. But the reason why they've had to sell their stakes is because now Mark Walter has to walk away. Yes, he has to sell his stakes and walk away. And that is the problem because Todd Boehly will not want to run Chelsea without the support or the presence of Mark Walter, because he has an exclusive relationship with Mark Walter. He started his finance career from Mark Walter's bank and his company. So he has always been that close friend to the man. And they all along coming into Chelsea, the two of them were working together. I do not think there's a way they can Todd Boehly can do this Chelsea work without Mark Walter, and so that is why both of them are decided to sell. But why is Mark Walter selling urgently? Now, Mark Walter has an insurance company, and then he also has a bank. It is understood that there was this company called TWG Global. Now, TWG Global, mafia penny. So TWG Global used a third party. For example, a third party could approach you that they want to have a partnership with you, and out of that, their lawyers and your lawyers will meet. They will go through your books and understand how things are going. Now, what happened was that this third party got access to the records, and then they gave the records to TWG Global. Now, TWG Global, having seen their records, now brought it out for a Security and Exchange Commission, as far as the Attorney General to also open an investigation into him. What has he done? What he has done is that there's now evidence that there's billions of dollars that have been signed off as loans to companies and conglomerates that are connected to Mark Walter. So maybe he has a steel company somewhere. His own bank, his own insurance company has given a loan of, let's say, $300 million to a company that belongs to him. You understand? So there's a lot of that in billions of dollars that has gone around his business empire, and now they are they are investigating him. Why is this serious? It is serious because in a proper jurisdiction, any jurisdiction that the economic setup is solid and buoyant, you cannot tamper with depositors' money. Depositors' money is the most difficult thing to tamper with. That is why in any jurisdiction, if a bank is not doing well, they will protect the depositors' money and then liquidate the owner's equities. You understand? The owner of the bank is the one who loses. They can't afford to let depositors lose their money, because depositors' money are the anchor of the economy. Because one, we need depositors to put their monies into banks so that it can be run through credible loan systems for money supply, people to get money. And let's not also forget that these monies go through the commercial banks, go to the central bank, and government also borrows from the central bank. And so government also relies on depositors' money one way or the other. Secondly, if people lose confidence in the financial system, they are not going to put their monies into the system again. So people could have money, but they will be hiding the money under the bed. And when that happens, money supply will be low. And so there can't be economic development when there's low money supply. And for that matter, people will have to constantly be encouraged to put their money into the system. And so it does not serve anybody right for depositors to lose confidence in the system, the banking system. That is why we have an agency called Securities and Exchange Commission to investigate the activities of these financial institutions and make sure that depositors' monies are protected. And that is why today Mark Walter is in trouble. Just 3 weeks ago, he sold his stakes in LA Lakers, Los Angeles Lakers, yes, for 12.5 billion. Yes, he's the majority owner of LA Dodgers Baseball Club with Todd Boehly, and they also have a female and a basketball football club, which is Angeles Sparks. Now that he has sold LA Lakers, Los Angeles Lakers, now he is preparing to sell Chelsea too. Now the rumors we are gathering is that in some of these scandals, the most important thing, like I told you, the most important thing is the recovery of the depositors' money. So for him to avoid jail, he would have to raise the depositors' money. That is what the prosecutors are interested in. Not for him to go and rot in jail, but to recover out the depositors' money. And so he has to sell Chelsea to raise the depositors' money and put it back in the system. This Los Angeles Lakers, he bought it just last year. And so it is not something that he had planned to buy this year and sell it next year. I do not think so. But the point is that it has become an emergency because of the criminal investigations he's facing. And I think that the sale of Chelsea may also be connected to these allegations as well. And so he wants to liquidate his assets, clear himself, produce the depositors' money that are almost missing under his grasp. And now Todd Boehly has become the biggest victim in this particular instance, because as he was planning on taking over or buying out the Clearlake capital equity, it has become a problem now because the person he was counting on has had to step out to protect himself. And so for that matter, it is a problem. It is a very, very big problem for both Chelsea and Todd Boehly. But no Chelsea fan should be celebrating. No Chelsea fan should be celebrating. Oh, me, I'm worried. I'm worried for Chelsea. No Chelsea fan should be celebrating. So, what does it mean for Chelsea? Number one, the new stadium conversation is in limbo, because from my checks, it is Todd Boehly who stood firm that Chelsea needed a new stadium. How it was going to be done was left with the Clearlake capital to approve the method. And As at now, after 2 years, they've not been able to make any clear success, clear progress. Now that Todd Boehly is walking away, that dream is most likely dead. They are going to do a very shabby work to compensate supporters along the line at a certain point in time and leave it that way. There isn't the motivation to do any proper work there. Now the second and the most important problem Chelsea fans are going to face is because now it becomes a pure private equity controlled company, and that is a problem for Chelsea because there won't be any opposition. It becomes a one-man show, and these people, they've showed us the blueprint. They've showed us what they are trying to do. It's a multi-club system. They have Strasbourg. They are trying to purchase other clubs. It is even likely that once they get any money, they are going to purchase more other clubs across Europe, and they begin to treat the teams like equities. You understand? And every time and if they are faced with the dilemma of securing Chelsea's football on the pitch and then protecting the assets they've invested across all the other clubs, they will choose protecting the assets because those are their long-term investments. Look at the players they've signed in Chelsea. They've treated the whole thing like an equity. That let us buy young players. Alejandro Garnacho, Jamie Bino Gittin, Liam Delap, young players who will have resale value so that when we are trying to sell them, we can cash in on that. Axel Disasi, this guy who has been sold today, Beniot, Bediasha, all of these guys, let us purchase them today, keep them around because they are young, and then sell them and then cash out on the price. So they treat the entire footballing thing, the entire sporting thing as an equity. And if you are a Chelsea fan, you should be sad. You should be crying today because now they are going to take absolute control. But if you were Todd Boehly inside that boardroom, once in a while, he brings up a disagreement. And conflicts, according to Karl Marx, conflicts are important to bring progress because when we disagree, we judge or we meet halfway, and then we continue to move forward. So we have this thesis, antithesis, then the synthesis to go on. And so for me, I am very sad for all Chelsea fans that there isn't going to be any debate in the boardroom at all. It becomes a one-man show. But if it is a one-man show and the man is like Roman Abramovich, who loves to invest, who loves to see progress on the pitch, you are safe. But what the Clearlake Capital people have done to show, what they've demonstrated to us, is to convince all of us that they are only interested in protecting their assets that they are investing. It is not about the performance on the pitch on any day. And if you're a Chelsea fan, you should be sad because Todd Boehly, somebody who doesn't understand the game but has raw natural passion for the game. He may have his negatives. He may have his negatives. However, he walking away and giving Egbali and then Feliciano a free walk does not serve Chelsea in any way. And so for me, it is sad for Chelsea. We are hopeful that both Mark Walter and Todd Boehly are going to receive the amount of £640 million each because they value Chelsea at 5 billion and both of them control 12.8 each, and so that will give them like 640 million pounds each at the end of the deal. We hope to see the deal being concluded, and they can't sell to outsiders because in 2022 when the deal was finalized, it was part of the rules that if you want to sell, you have to sell to the other owners internally. Yes, you have to sell to the other owners internally, and so they cannot sell to an outsider. That is why no matter what, the Clearlake Capital is going to absorb all their stakes and run the show for themselves. This has been an ASK Morgan production. Thank you so much for staying with us. Please subscribe to the channel on YouTube, like the video, follow us on TikTok. Please go to the comment section and tell us what you think. Chelsea fans, we want to hear from you. Are you happy with what we are hearing, or you, like me, you are sad? Thank you so much for staying with us.